Hi, I'm Simon. Thanks for tuning in to The Ordinary Filmmaker. Subscribe to get notification of new videos like this one so you don't miss any news, rumors, gear reviews, or tutorials. And to make things just a little bit more exciting, I'm giving away a brand new Canon EOS R5 full-frame mirrorless camera to one lucky viewer. Details are in the description down below, or you can watch this video here. Please look at the terms and conditions as there are some age and location restrictions. And now, for the news. A well-known source of Canon rumors says that the EOS R1 will have quad-pixel autofocus and a global shutter. You'll remember that I stated that the R1 would have quad-pixel autofocus in mid-October. It's not often that I beat Canon rumors. Anyhow, the EOS R1 will be announced and released in time for the Tokyo Olympics later this summer. Sony rumors gave us an update on the rumored specs for the A7 IV, but all channels are quiet when it comes to the A9 Mark III. The A9 Mark III was supposed to be announced at CES, but obviously that didn't happen. Nikon lost 75 billion yen, or $720 million US. Every quarter, it's negative news after negative news for Nikon. It's either another loss, layoffs, a cut in research and development, or lost market share. I really do sincerely hope that Nikons can survive, but I'm not hopeful with everything that's going on. I also did a review of the Falcon Eyes waterproof, flexible flat panel light. Now this thing isn't cheap, but it produces as much light as a small sun, so it's perfect for filming outside, day or night, sunny or cloudy. Now next month, CP Plus will go ahead with an online show from February the 25th through to the 28th. Keep an eye on this show as the major camera manufacturers start to drop camera announcements in the days ahead of the show. We're expecting new cameras from Canon, Sony, Nikon, Panasonic, and who knows who else. Now what do you think will get dropped before the show? Let me know in the comment section below. On Thursday, Canon rumors told us that the Canon R5 would get a firmware update in February. It would include Cinema Raw Light, C-Log 3, 120 frames per second in 1080, and various bug fixes. Not long after we got wind of the R5 firmware update, Sony sent out an invitation to an alpha product announcement. Will we get the A9 Mark III, the A7 Mark IV, both, or something else? Let me know in the comment section down below. Like staying informed and learning about camera gear? Well, subscribe and choose all notifications to get notified as soon as I publish a video. But now, it's time to answer your questions. Got a question for next week's video? Post it in the comment section down below and I might be answering your question next week. And now for our first question. Demas Tech asks, can't you change from evaluative metering to something else, or am I confusing it with different settings? That's right, Demas. You cannot change the metering mode when you're shooting video on the Canon EOS R5. And I've checked. I've struggled with this. I've had the camera for 6 months. And for the first 3 months, I was shooting outside all the time. And the amount of times I'd have to reshoot, because no matter what I did, no matter what I fooled around with, whether I was using variable ND filters, no matter how I set my f-stop or my shutter or my ISO, the metering was what was screwing things up. And it took me a while to figure out that it was the metering. And once I realized it was the metering and I couldn't change it, I became very frustrated. And what I realized at that point is there's no sense beating your head against the wall when it comes to technology. The only thing I recommend if you want to beat your head against the wall is wrap a lemon or an orange against your forehead, so when you beat your head against the wall, at least you can taste defeat. That's the only thing I can suggest there, but I just gave up shooting outside. Yes, I could have bought sunshades, I could have bought other lights, and I could have done all this, but then I was going to town. It's costing me a lot more to get the results I wanted, when all I needed to be able to do was to be able to change from evaluative mode to maybe spot or one of the other modes. And so that's really frustrating. So yeah, I've confirmed it. I've been shooting with the R5 for 6 months, and yeah, and I talked to Canon too, so Canon told me this. When you're shooting video on the R5, you are stuck in evaluative mode. There's no way to change it. Not in manual, not in any of the other modes. So sorry, Demas Tech. But photos, you're fine. And here's the thing too. Can you imagine, for those of you that shoot stills with the R5, can you imagine shooting and being told you're stuck in evaluative mode? I know. Look, I know what you're saying. It's a stills hybrid camera. You're a video guy. You're just going to have to suck it up or get a cinema camera. And you're right. I am sucking it up. But I'm really curious to know what the C50 is going to be like. We'll just have to wait and see. OJ Hansen asks, what happened to the Sony A9 Mark III? Is it going to be the next magical unicorn Sony camera that's released 5 years down the road, yet we talk about it weekly? I'm looking at you, Sony a7S III. That's great. I love the humor there, OJ. So here's what I think is going on. On Tuesday, January the 26th, Sony is going to have an announcement. They've already put it out there, and they said it's going to be an alpha announcement. So I think there's two possible candidates for the announcement. It's going to be the A7 Mark IV, or it's going to be the A9 Mark III. And here's why I think it's going to be the A9 Mark III. And this isn't my original thought. I can't remember who suggested, but somebody else had mentioned this. If you look at the words that are used there, it's, I can't remember right now, but I think it says something new. I want to say the thing from 2001 Space Odyssey, something wonderful is going to happen, but no, something new. And if you think of the A7S III, the rumors are saying this is going to be a completely new camera, architecturally, processor, sensor, everything. It's going to be a completely new camera. So what I'm thinking is it's most likely going to be that camera, and it's going to be a whole new different, or new technologies that we're going to see in this camera. And I think that's what this is harping at. So I think most likely it's going to be the A9 Mark III, and Sony's going to be introducing some amazing technology. As I talked about on the videos on Thursday night, this is supposed to be an 8K video camera. This camera can do 8K, yet this is the flagship stills camera. I don't even think Canon's R1 is going to be able to do 8K video, so I'm really curious. Should I take the day off to just watch this thing? I should. You know what? If I take the day off, it'll probably be some other camera that just won't matter. It won't even be the A7 IV. It won't be the A9 Mark III. It'll be some new camera. But no, I think it's going to be the A9 Mark III. So let's wait to see Tuesday what drops. And who knows? Make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because if some news is leaked between now and Sunday, I'm going to be on it and get it out to you. Dan asks, any tips on faster editing talking head videos in FCPX? So Dan's referring to Final Cut Pro. And Dan, there's really 4 things you can do. The one thing is you want to make sure that you're editing in ProRes. So what I highly recommend, and this will really help save you a ton of time, get yourself an external recorder like the Ninja 5, because what it allows you to do is capture right off the sensor, and you're able to capture it in ProRes 422. You can also do RAW, you can also do AVID codecs as well, but if you're editing in Final Cut, then you're going to want ProRes 422. You can edit right off the SSD. All you do is you take the SSD off, you use an SSD caddy, plug it into your computer, and you start editing. No rendering, no transfers whatsoever. So that's one thing that can save you a huge amount of time. The next thing that I recommend doing is creating a template project. So I've got one, I call it Template 2021. And what I do is I grab my intro and I grab any artifacts that I constantly use time and time again. If there's effects that I use, for example, behind the scenes, I've got a new, it's not effect. I've got a new effect and it says behind the scenes, and then it lists underneath what the different topics are I talk on behind the scenes. So I have that and a whole bunch of other things, and I put it into that template project, so it's so much easier to just find the things I reuse over and over again. But another thing I think is very, very important, you want to get 80% there. You want to meet expectations. Don't go for perfection. Perfection is very expensive, and you look at my channel, the last thing I've done is gone for perfection. But you'll see that I'm ever evolving and getting better and better, and I think that's very important. Just avoid perfection, because it will get you in trouble. And another thing, or the last thing I would say, is you want to follow the same process, the same workflow. How you shoot, the settings that you use. Use presets wherever you can. So for example, when I bring my video into the project, one of the first things I do is I apply a preset to it. Now things can change from time to time, and I might just adjust the preset a little bit, and if I need to adjust it enough, then I just save a new preset. So all this stuff will save you a huge amount of time. But the external recorder, I'd say, is one of the biggest time savers. Then having a template folder, because you're not searching for stuff that you use all the time. And of course, not striving for perfection. And all those working together, you'll be amazed at how little time you spend on a lot of this editing stuff. Joe Doc asks, will Canon bring a full-frame mirrorless camera in 2021 that doesn't overheat in 4K 60? And will they stop with a 30-minute record limit? Oh, yeah, you'd think we've beaten this one to death, but we haven't. That's a very good question. And actually, to answer this question, once again, I have Moving Matt here to answer this question for you, Joe Doc. Over to you, Jim.
Hey everyone, welcome to Moving Matt. Thank you all for welcoming me back, and a special thank you to those I've seen stop by my channel. It is greatly appreciated. Okay, so let's jump into this question. Will Canon bring out a full-frame camera in 2021 with 4K 60 without overheating, and will they finally get rid of those annoying recording limits? I might have paraphrased the question a bit, but I think I captured the sentiment. So the answer to those questions are yes and maybe. So first, on to the no overheating 4K 60. Yes, they will bring out a camera with no overheating 4K 60. The R1 will almost certainly come out this year, and I am 99% sure it will not overheat. I am super confident in that because the 1DX Mark III is already out and it does 4K 60 without overheating. In all likelihood, the R1 will be a slightly bigger body and won't be plagued with the overheating 4K 60. And even if it doesn't have a larger body, there are ways for them to better manage the heat that will allow them to avoid that issue. The reasons that the R5 seems to overheat is because the super insulated design and the lack of a proper heat sink. There was actually a video from DIY Perks showing that by adding a copper heat sink, you could get 39 minutes of 8K, which is 43% more than the aluminum heat sink that they have now. Also, it only needed 5 minutes to rest in order to record 30 more minutes repeatedly. The point I'm making is it can be done, and Canon is not going to let its flagship camera be plagued with that issue. The problem is, it is Canon's flagship camera. The most optimistic pricing has it coming in at $6,000, and some are saying it could be as high as $8,000. So yeah, it is coming out, but at a price. Cheaper solutions, if you don't mind the extra bulk, is to buy a Ninja 5 with a R5 or an R6. From all accounts I've seen, that seems to take care of the issue. Gerald Undone did a video showing that the R5 lasted at least 3 hours in 4K 60 without overheating. I've seen some information to suggest that it might be the same for the R6 as well, but maybe look into it further before you drop $1,000 on the Ninja 5 from my recommendations. The other big hope we have is that Canon with future firmware can get the R5 and R6 to 4K 60 without the assistance of a recorder. I think past updates have shown a huge improvement already, so I think no overheating 4K 60 might not be completely out of the question if we continue to pressure Canon and let them know that's what we want. And that brings me to your other question. Will they get rid of the time restrictions? Possibly, but that will be up to all of us. If we write to Canon when we get the opportunity and let it be known our grievances, that sounds like very old English. Let it be known our grievances, we will not take a recording limits anymore. Sorry, I digress. The point I am making is that there is really no excuse for them to have that artificial 30 minutes in there anymore. The extra tax for cameras with over 30 minutes have been removed, and so should the limit itself. We can make this happen, and a spokesperson from Canon already said they thought it was going to happen, so they've cracked the door. Let's make sure that they open it. So if you ever get the opportunity, let Canon know what you want. I think that the R5 and R6 are proof that they've been listening. So I hope I've answered your questions, and thanks again to everyone for letting me come back. And until next time, back to you, Tom.
Thanks a lot, Tom. As always, a very insightful answer. And now for our next question. And a second question from OJ Hansen. Have you ever thought of giving your footage to someone else to edit on with or collaborate with and bring a different style to, just for a single episode? Imagine ordinary filmmaker news but with a Camera Conspiracies style, a crossover concept. Just a thought. Actually, that's a brilliant idea, OJ, and I would love to do it, but here's the thing. I've only got 20,000 subscribers. Well, I'm almost there. And to get some of these other guys like Casey to even take my call or listen to my messages just isn't happening. I've tried to reach out to Casey many times, and he absolutely has no interest in talking to me whatsoever. And I think that's pretty well the case for most of them too. I would love to do something with DP Review as well, but just to put my stuff in the hands of Casey and see what he could do to my content, I think would be hilarious. But I don't know, maybe you could have some luck and reach out to him and say, hey, look, why don't you do some sort of collaboration with The Ordinary Filmmaker? Because yeah, I'd love to do that. And it's not that I don't try to do this, but what you'll notice is there are a few exceptions to this, but most of the times anybody who's got more subscribers isn't going to collaborate with somebody who's got a whole lot less. Unless, of course, you know, you're dealing with somebody who's got 300,000 versus 400,000, but you're not going to see somebody who's got 300,000 subscribers do a collaboration with somebody who's got 20,000, or in Casey's case, I think he's what, around 80 or 70? So yeah, I think it's a great idea though. Wasa Bitamy Piece 1 says, what do you attribute to the fair and sensible discussions in the comment section of your videos? It's very comfortable in the comments section, and I really like that about your channel. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. It's not by luck. I play a very active role in the comments section, and I do have some filters set up. Any swearing or cuss words or racial stuff is automatically blocked. And if they come up with a new one, then I put that in there. And the main reason is, you know, while my channel isn't meant for children, if a child stumbles into my channel and starts watching my videos, there's nothing there that's going to create any difficulties. Or if people are watching my videos during dinner time or something, they're not going to have to worry about the F-bomb coming out or something like that. So that's one of the reasons I do keep the language down. But if I see anybody who's insulting somebody, they're deleted. Or usually if it's bad enough, I will just go straight to hiding them from the channel. I really, when I set out my channel, one of the things I set up as a goal is to create a channel where people can come and discuss things and ask questions, to create an active community. Something reminiscent of what we had back in the 80s with bulletin board systems before we had the internet in the way we do today. So it's something that I've nurtured and I've encouraged people, and I don't mind if people say negative things as long as they're constructive criticism. I don't mind if people talk about their channels as long as it's not just about their channel. Like if people come in and they say, hey, look, I just published a video on this. It's like, you know what? You know, have some respect. Make a comment on the video you're posting in and then say, oh, I also did a video on this, right? So I don't mind people mentioning their channels or videos they're working on, but don't just blindly come in and spam the channel. And lately I seem to be having problems with these Asian ladies who like to come in and put hugs and kisses and they're scantily clad and they seem to be up there and posting on every video. So I don't know. But yeah, this is something I'm working very actively on. Now when things get really, really busy on the channel, I can't respond to every question or every comment. I do my best, but I'm there and I'm watching. And if you're interested in being a moderator, let me know, because one of the things moderators can do is you can go into all the comments that have been held for review and you can release them. And I, be honest with you, since July, I haven't gone into that bucket. And one of the things I block is links. And the simple reason why I block links is because quite often you get links to porn or other sites that can steal personal information. So I just don't allow links on my site. And usually what I encourage people to do is if they want to talk about something on IBM or Nikon, describe where it is on that site, but by default, those are blocked. And if I could get more moderators, then we could allow more links to show up. So really good question. Ali asks, will you be getting the Canon EOS R1? Well, I'll never say no, Ali, but I don't think so. The R1 is going to cost a lot of money. Best bet it's going to be around $10,000 Canadian or $6,500 US. And I just don't have the cash for that. And in all honesty, I think a better camera for the channel would probably be something like the C70 or maybe even the C50 or C90 when they come out. Pretty much to date, I've spent maybe $13,000 on this channel, and every cent that's come in more or less gets sent out. And what happened just before Christmas, you'll probably remember I got the RF 50mm, I got the RF 800mm, I got the 2x extender RF. I also just picked up this lens too. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but that's coming up soon. I bought some more software, I bought some other little gadgets, and I spent, you know, a good deal of money on a 4TB SSD. So I need to let the account fill up a little bit more before I can think of buying anything else. And I really wish I was big enough to have companies like Canon say, oh, would you like to try out our R1, sir? Or how about our C70? I would really love that. But I think with the metering issues, especially if I want to do more shooting outside, having a camera like the C70 would probably be a whole lot more beneficial to me. But to get my hands on the R1, you know I'd love to get my hands on it. It's just going to be a beast of a camera, but I'd love to get my hands on the Sony flagship and the Nikon flagship cameras too. Rumor Has It asks, when IBIS is introduced, pixel shift is usually introduced soon after. What camera do you think Canon will use to introduce this version? Well, pixel shift is all about driving really high resolution photos, so I think it's going to be in the high megapixel version of the R5. Now personally, rumor has it, I don't care for pixel shift. To me, it's a gimmick. You need a really good tripod, you need very stable ground, and you need to be in an area where you have absolutely no wind, because as it takes those 4 shots, and sometimes, who knows, maybe it takes more, but generally it takes 4 photos and stitches them together, unless you've got a super fast sensor and everything is stable, there's always something in the frame that's moving and it will create distortion. So for that reason, I just don't see the point to pixel shift technology. I think it is pretty much a gimmick. And when you look at cameras that have it, such as the Panasonic S1R, you know, they have, I think, is it 180 megapixels? And half of the file is just filler. It doesn't have to be that big. And then, of course, editing those files is very difficult. So I think there are a few scenarios where that's important, but I think you're better off buying cameras that can natively take, you know, 180 megapixels or 1,000 megapixels or 1,000,000 megapixels, whatever it is you need, natively in the sensor without having to stitch together a whole bunch of photos later on. Chris asks, what do you attribute to the fair and sensible discussion in the comments section of your videos? It's very comfortable in the comments section, and I really like that about your channel. Well, there's really several things. One is I participate in the channel discussions myself. I'm very active there. But when I set up the channel, one of the things I set as a goal is to create a community forum, a place where people can come, where they can ask questions, where they can discuss without being ridiculed, without being insulted. So one thing I do is I do have filters that I use from YouTube, and I'll block any swearing. I look for certain keywords that might be that kind of indicate somebody might be insulting somebody. And I also block links. Now, sadly, the reason I block links is because there actually is quite a bit of spam that goes on out there, people trying to steal personal information from people, porn links and all that. And sadly, I don't have the flexibility to control what type of links. So all the links, basically, any comment with a link in it gets put into the need for review. Same does with anything swearing. And then myself or the moderators will go in, take a look, and determine whether this is something that can be approved or not. Now, sadly, since July, I really haven't had a chance to do a lot of reviewing, and I've only got 2 moderators. So if you're interested in moderating, let me know. And the role is just simple. You go in, you take a look at which comments have been held for review, and if they meet the terms and conditions, which is more or less you're not insulting anybody, you're not just doing a spam ad or anything like that, then yeah, no problem with the link whatsoever. But I've always liked sites, I've always liked areas where you can come and you can ask questions, and I think that's one of the driving forces behind this, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so active, responding to as many comments and questions as I can. And the main purpose of doing this video was to give you another outlet where if you've exhausted trying to find stuff online, you've got an opportunity to ask me a question and I can get you answers. So that's really what this is about. It meets my vision of the channel. It meets my goals of trying to create a positive place for community engagement. And of course, you know, I put a lot of time in there. You can see all the comments to ensure that, you know, it's a safe place for people to be. And, you know, one of the things too, whether I'm talking in my videos or whether you go into the comments, you don't have to worry about children coming in and looking at the content. There's nothing there that's going to create a problem. And that's one of the things too, is if you're watching videos at night around dinner time, you don't have to worry about me dropping the F-bomb. And if your kids are interested in cameras, you don't have to worry about them looking at the channel and finding some nasty stuff. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean I don't hate criticism. I take a lot of criticism, and as long as it's constructive criticism and it's people not trying to be rude and insulting, then, you know, I'm not into deleting comments just because somebody says, you know, this video was terrible, you did a terrible job of audio. Quite often I'll say, yeah, you know what, the audio was terrible in this video and here's why, and maybe talk about it in a future behind the scenes. So yeah, really good question, Chris. Use Your Image Sean asks, with Canon looking so much to the future of their mirrorless lineup, are they done with providing any more firmware updates to the EOS R? No, I really don't think so. And to give you an idea, look at the 5D Mark IV. That camera came out, what was it, 2016 now? 2015, 2016, I'm pretty sure it was 2016. Either way, it's pretty old. But what did Canon do in October the 20th of 2020? Well, they released a firmware update. So yeah, I still think you're going to get firmware updates, but here's the thing. I don't think you're going to get anything earth-shattering. You're not going to get C-Log 3, C-Log 2. You're not going to get Cinema Raw Light. I don't think you're going to see a lot of development. I don't think you're going to see a lot of big features. Now, I could be wrong, but I just don't see the feature roadmap for the EOS R. I think that's kind of at the end of the line. I think what we're going to see is we're going to see 2 new cameras coming out this year. They're kind of entry-level, ones that are designed to replace the EOS R. And if you've got the EOS R and you're looking to replace it, you're going to have one of two options. The R6, which is kind of like the premium version of the successor to the EOS R. And there's going to be another more economy version that's going to give you more features than the EOS R, but don't be surprised if Canon takes some of them away. Clive asks, will the Sony a7 IV be better than the Canon EOS R6? Will the Canon 1 be better than the Sony or Nikon's upcoming flagship mirrorless camera? This is one of those great discussions of just having a conversation. I honestly don't know. The specifications that we're seeing are not detailed enough. No one has come out with full leaked specifications of the camera. Now the EOS R1 looks really interesting with a global shutter and of course quad pixel autofocus. So it doesn't matter what the orientation of the camera is, that autofocus is going to do really well. And of course not having a global shutter, so that eliminates that effect of the rolling shutter, right? So there's that. It's probably not going to have 8K, but then look at Sony. The A9 Mark III is rumored to have 8K. Now again, Sony rumors aren't that reliable, so I really don't know what this camera is going to have. I really do think that it's exciting. I feel like a kid before Christmas, a month before Christmas. We're going to have a lot of really great cameras coming out this year. I thought 2020 was great. I think 2021 might be just a little bit better, so I don't know. I don't know which one's going to be better. Obviously, for somebody who's got Canon glass or Nikon glass or Panasonic glass, you're probably going to go with the replacement in your ecosystem. It's just very expensive to replace your whole inventory, unless of course you have multiple different cameras in your inventory already. So we'll just have to wait and see. I wish I could give you more, but at this point, I don't know. I'm really curious to see what Sony's going to do, because they see that Canon is being more aggressive, so I think they're going to really put the kitchen sink into this. And Canon, they're also very serious too, so I really expect that both Canon and Sony are really going to throw a lot at these cameras. They know they're competing against each other. They can see each other. It's like race car drivers. You know where the competition is. You know what's going on. Nikon, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what Nikon's going to do here. They're rumored to have 8K as well, but again, we don't have a lot of specs, but I'm really curious to see what Sony and Canon are up to. John asks, any word on whether Canon will be making any of the big whites in the R mount in 2021? Well, John, let's take a look at this table here. These are all the rumored lenses that we're supposed to be seeing in 2021, and this was back in October the 10th. This comes from Canon Rumors. Let's be honest here, when it comes to rumors of lenses, these things prove to be anything but reliable, even the ones that come from Canon Rumors. But Canon Rumors felt that these had a good chance of coming out in 2021 back in October. A lot's happened since then. COVID-19 has kind of picked up a little bit. AKM semiconductor fire. So we'll just have to see. But we're going on information from October. So let's take a look again. We're going to be getting several long telephotos, the 400mm at f2.8. And notice that these are all L series. The 500mm, it's going to be f4. Same with the 600mm, also at f4. But look at the 800mm. We're getting an L series at 5.6 and an L series at 1200mm at f.8. And that's pretty amazing. So these are on the roadmap. Now, whether we'll see all of them this year, that remains to be seen. Since this came out in October, I've seen virtually nothing since. Now, Canon Rumors did come out with something a little bit later and say, more or less, gave an update to the information here. But, you know, like I said in my previous video yesterday, knowing what Canon's doing is kind of like a sail ship sailing through a storm. Every minute, every few seconds, that ship's going to be making changes and keeping an eye on things. And Canon's kind of in the same boat. It's got a lot of pressures. It's got a global-wide economic recession. It's got COVID-19. It's got the AKM semiconductor fire, which affects the components that they're getting. So all of this together, and of course you've got a shrinking market. Who knows what we're going to see this year, but these are the items that if you were going to bet, these are items we're likely to see, but I'm not 100% sure that we're going to see all of these in 2021. Stop the FOMO asks, if you're not upgrading to the new iMac with the M1X chip, what will push you to upgrade besides a system failure? Nothing at all. And here's the reason, Stop the FOMO. I look at the price of a new machine and it's somewhere around $3,500 to $4,000 Canadian. And since I get paid in Canadian dollars most of the time, that really makes an impact to me. So I look at, well, what do I possibly get with spending that $4,000? Other than, ooh, I get a new machine, which is exciting for a couple of hours. But after that, what's the return on investment? Sure, it can do things a little bit quicker, but I do have an iMac Pro right now, and it's a very, very fast machine. So yes, an iMac Pro, or sorry, one of these M1, M1X, or M2 processors, whichever comes out this year, will likely make things a little bit faster, but it's not like I have a huge queue of jobs ready to produce videos. I might do one a day, maybe two, and after I've filmed it, I walk over to my computer with the SD card, I bring it into the computer, and I start editing right away. So it'll save me some time, but there's not another job that if I get this done 15 minutes quicker, I have another job that can make me more money. There isn't any more revenue coming in, so that would be, I'm spending more money, but it's not generating any money. And I remember, who's the name? Kevin O'Leary, I think he said, you know, when I send my money off to fight, I don't want it to die. I want it to come back and bring back more money. So when I purchase something for the channel, I want it to generate money in some way or have a material impact on what I'm able to do. And so, and I get it, these are amazing architectures. These machines are fast. Everybody's saying that, but I just do not see the benefit. In fact, by spending about $1,000 on a Ninja 5 complete kit, I get much better value out of that and be able to reduce my editing time than I would by getting a new Mac with that M processor. Pierre asks, any tip on a low-priced ND filter? I certainly don't believe in going with the cheapest out there because you definitely get what you pay for with ND filters. I really like the Kinkos. I got a couple of these here. I got a couple of 77s and a 72. And I think the 77s were around $120 and the 72 was around $90. I don't recall right now, but I really do like these. They don't create that Xing effect and they have a really good range. I think they're from 1 to 9 stops, somewhere around there, or 8.5 stops. But I'm very happy with these. They also have a little gadget that screws into the filter itself, so you can actually move it from the outside without putting your fingers and getting grease on the lens. So I do really like these guys. You can also get Canon's version that sticks right onto the mount itself. The only problem with that is the adjuster to change the stops. It's so sensitive that it's very easy to change that, so I'm not a big fan of that. But the nice thing about that one there is if you've got a lot of lenses, and I mean like just 3 lenses, and you want to use ND filters with those, and those lenses are all different diameters, you're not going to have to buy 3 different ND filters, and that's where these can really get expensive, or any ND filter can get expensive if you're putting it onto the lens itself. If you're putting it onto the mount, and Canon's not the only one that makes one, there are others, that's an interesting way of going because now you're no longer having to worry about having to buy multiples of them, and I would consider that route as well. Or the other thing too is you can get ND filters that actually, they do clamp onto the lens, but it's just a sheet that goes out in front, so you can put different sheets in, and so it doesn't really matter what the diameter of the lens is. So that's another option too. So it's not necessarily about what's the best unit cost price you can get for quality, so a good value ND filter. It's kind of asking yourself, how many lenses am I going to buy? How many lenses do I want an ND filter on? And I would look into that too, because it's easy. Yeah, you can save $5 here, but then end up spending, you know, hundreds of dollars more with all the different lenses you purchase. And our last question is from Robert. Robert asks, which camera would you recommend to someone your son's age? That's a really good one. Now, my son's very destructive, so I kind of took this approach. My son is working from home too. Well, he's attending school from home. And what we have is we have a very small laptop. It's an 11-inch, and we have an iPad mini. And so he's familiar with the iPad. He uses that a lot. He likes using the iPad. And guess what the iPad has? It has a built-in camera. You can see where I'm going with this. Him learning to use the cameras in an iPad or an iPhone, he gets, and he's already started taking pictures. So that's kind of what I recommend. Now with these things, you can put ruggedized cases on them, and they're pretty cheap. You can get some of the entry-level ones or used ones, and you're not going to spend more than a couple of $100s. I thought of interchangeable lens cameras. I thought of something like a mirrorless camera like an M5 or even an SL2 or an SL3, but then the level of complexity is just that much more. And I just thought of him using it and realized that's not the way to go. So leveraging technology that he's already familiar with, such as an iPad or an iPhone, it's pretty simple. He just gravitates to that and he's able to use it. So I show him how to take photos and he starts taking photos. The only problem right now is his framing isn't the best, because here he holds out this iPad like this. He expects to be able to see, or the iPad to see what he sees, whereas usually the camera's out here. But other than that, I think something like an entry-level iPad or a used iPad or something that's refurbished, or even one of those larger phones refurbished, because remember, at their size, you know, while we might find the smartphone or an iPhone or something to be a little bit small with his hands, you know, it's like doubling the size of that. So the bigger iPads, a bit too big for him, but like an iPad mini or one of the larger iPhones or a comparable Samsung Galaxy, I think would probably be one of the best cameras for, you know, somebody who's 6 or 7 years of age. Even if they're a little bit destructive, then you can just get a rubberized case or a little bit of a ruggedized case, and you know, not going to cost you a whole lot of money. But that's it for this week's questions. Now I want to talk to you about a couple of things in this episode of Behind the Scenes. So the first thing I want to talk about in this episode is the number of questions I'm doing. I'm trying to keep them down to about 10 questions. Well, this week I went over again, but I did things a little differently. Thursday night, I went ahead and shot the intro, and then I thought, well, let's just go ahead and read off a few questions, and I did. And I only had about 3 or 4 left for today. So you know what I did? I looked to see more questions coming in, and I added some more, so we have some more questions. So I shot part of it yesterday, and I shot the other part of it during lunch today. It's probably going to take about 15 to 20 minutes to finish this off. And yes, I'm wearing the same shirt. I try to make myself look exactly the same. The framing might be off a little bit, but because they're separated by different questions, shouldn't be an issue. So I am trying to keep the number of questions down because it takes an awful lot of time to editing, and until I get an external recorder, that extra time is really tough to budget sometimes. So that's why I'm trying to keep these to under 30 minutes. The other thing I want to talk about, this goes back to when I had the Ninja 5 in here and I was reviewing it, and I said that the cable, the HDMI cable is just, well, it's not the HDMI cable. I was really knocking Canon for giving us a micro HDMI port. The big problem with that is it's even the cable, when it's plugged in, it's kind of loose, and you just know over time you're probably going to damage it. I knocked Canon for that, but I apologize because I didn't tell you the full story. What Canon does do in every R5 is they give you this cable manager or adapter. I don't know what they call it. It's probably some sort of cable management device. Sounds better than it is. Then what you do is you line this up on the back, you screw it in, and then when you put in the micro HDMI cable here, it's pretty firm. It's held in there. Now, the only problem is you have this sticking outside of the camera, so if you forget it's there, it's very easy to bang into something and then break this off and then maybe dislodge this piece of metal inside your camera. Again, it's still not an ideal solution, but obviously Canon realized that putting the micro HDMI in there wasn't the best idea and they're going to have problems with it, so they provided that. And I bought something last weekend. I got this. This is an EFS lens. No, I didn't buy it for my 70D. I bought this for the Canon EOS R5. And why did I do that? Yep, that's right, vlogging. I want to do more vlogging, and this thing is super light. It's like 200 grams. It's less than half a pound. When I put this on the R5, it was like it wasn't even there. So last Sunday, I went out and I shot a video with the Crane 2S, and because I was able to, well, let's see, yeah, I put it on 10 millimeters, which works out to, the framing works out to be about 16 millimeters based on the crop. So with that, I was able to hold the Crane 2S like this with my arms at my side, not extended. So I recorded for about 10, 12 minutes. And I wasn't sore afterwards, and I wasn't sore the next day. But sadly, I shot in 2 locations, and when I went to the second location, I forgot to change the f-stop from f/22. So you can imagine how bad the footage looked. I mean, it looked like I was shooting with something like a Canon 20D in low light, and it was terrible because there was no sun. I was in the forest and it was just looked absolutely terrible. So I just deleted the footage, but I am going to take this out there. I want to see how well this does, because look, I picked this up for $130 US and they retail new for $300. That's super cheap. The Samyang 14 millimeters, let's leave it there. The Samyang 14 millimeters, the autofocus version, that's going to cost somewhere around $700, $800, or Canadian, I'm looking at about $1,000 after taxes, around $919. And, you know, $130 US versus what, $600, $700 US after taxes and fees and all that? I'll try it. I mean, I know, I get it. It's like an f4.5 to 5.6. I think that's what it is. Let me just take a look here. Yeah, 4.5 to 5.6, image stabilized. It's an STM. It is super silent. Before I bought it, I tried it out. I actually thought that it wasn't working properly. The focusing motor was so quiet. Oh, and I'm cheating a little bit here. This is actually the lens. This is the EF to RF adapter. Let's put this on properly. So yeah, that's the actual size of it. It's just super light. I'm surprised when I throw it up in the air, it just doesn't hover and float. So I am glad I got the EF to RF adapter, even though I hardly use it anymore. It allows me to look at opportunities like this. And that's where I think it's a huge, huge benefit if you're moving to an R system, because you can put on an adapter that costs $100 and you've got access to not only EF lenses, but all those EF-S lenses as well. Now that doesn't mean I'm not looking at getting an RF prime, like a 16 millimeter. I think a 16 millimeter would be perfect, but for now, $130 versus, you know, and I try it out, see how it works. And the nice thing about this is if I find out, you know, 16 millimeters isn't good, I probably should go with 14 or 18 millimeters. I can turn around and sell this and get what I paid for it. And that's a huge advantage of this. All right, I want to give you an update on the merchandising system. I was supposed to have a hat by now, but there's been a delay. And the company that's been looking at producing these for us, I'm not going to mention names until everything's all figured out, but they blamed it on COVID. And usually when you start blaming it on COVID, we got the canned response. So it could be any number of things. So we're looking at another opportunity, but I'm hoping to have a hat here within a week or two. That'll start the merchandising. But the one big thing that I think you guys will be really excited that will benefit everybody, I've got a lot of complaints of people saying, I am not getting notifications when you publish a video. I have absolutely no control over this, none whatsoever. It's all handled by YouTube and Google. However, through this new engagement system, and everything does tie into YouTube, so it's not like you have to log into both or use both systems, you can get notification to your phone or to an email address as soon as a video is published. And I'm going to provide notifications also on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. So it's going to be a much better way of communicating. And so if you want to be the first, you want to say, hey, first, or drop a, I don't know, some sort of wise comment as the first one, you're going to have a much more challenging time when I roll out these new systems. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching The Ordinary Film. Oh, no, actually, there is one more thing. Now, by the time you're watching this, I may have reached 20,000 subscribers, or I may be fast approaching it. When I started recording this at lunchtime, I was at 19,926, which puts me on, well, it puts me, if I can get 6 subscribers every hour up until midnight, that'll give me 20,000 subscribers by midnight. It's possible, but unlikely. I think it'll probably happen sometime Saturday or maybe even Sunday. So we'll just have to wait and see. But as soon as that happens, I'll put out a new video where I talk about the new prizes. And I'll very quickly go and grab all the subscribers. I'll announce the winner. I'll announce it on all the social media feeds that I have. I'll put out it in a separate video. I'll do it behind the scenes. And hopefully this time around, somebody says, that's me right away. And if you do win, the last thing I want you to do is go ahead and broadcast your personal address or other information in the comment section. I'll direct you to YouTube where you can provide me the information without broadcasting it. But that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. Don't forget to subscribe for your chance to win the Syncolav S6E and M3 shotgun microphones, which I'll be awarding very, very soon, probably later today, tomorrow, or even Sunday when I reach 20,000 subscribers. And then for every 10,000 subscribers after that, I'll be offering up a newer and even better prize. I'm getting excited here because I know what the next two prizes are. One is going to be an Angelbird prize bundle with 3 different items in it, and the second one will be a Ulanzi LED light prize bundle with 5 different things in it. And I'll be awarding those at 30,000. And then again, for every 10,000 subscribers, all the way on up to 100,000, I'll be offering up different and more expensive prizes. And of course, out of 100,000 subscribers, I'll be awarding a brand new Canon EOS R5 full-frame mirrorless camera to one lucky viewer. And on that bombshell, thank you so much for watching The Ordinary Willmaker. No, I'm not a will maker. Thank you so much for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. We'll see you again soon.